Hey, well, good morning, everyone. I'm filling in for Dr. Reichert. I am not actually the division chief, so bear with me. So I'm in the Vaccines and Therapeutics Division as a chief scientist, and one of the things that we try to accomplish is to move from that one bug drug to the threat agnostic types of approaches. So go to the next slide. You can see that our role here in the CB world is to develop medical countermeasures against biological threats and to ensure protection and prevention of diseases caused by biothreats. We have multiple goals, but I just want to point out that we focus our investments now in two main areas. One is in the area in technologies that accelerate and bring medical countermeasures into the development realm and transition over to our partners at a greater speed than in the past. So instead of taking 10 to 15 years to discover and develop a drug, can we do that in under 90 days is our current logic. So we're looking for ideas that help us achieve that goal. On the other side, the other main goal is to develop broad spectrum medical countermeasures. So what does that mean? And I will sort of get to that as we go into the talk a little bit more. So I'm not going to cover all of these objectives other than to say that our major goals and objectives align with the Chem-Bio strategic plans and with the National Defense Biodefense Plan, and sort of align back to what Daz D. Watson said earlier in terms of reducing cost, time, schedule, and improving the breadth of spectrum, and so on. And I'm going quickly because we are short of time. So let's jump to our prophylaxis team. This is a team that is run by Dr. Tracy Pauls. Those of you that know Tracy will understand that she is radically changing the prophylaxis program to what she now calls the Raptor program, which plans to preemptively understand the properties of different vaccine platforms and how they might apply to a specific threat ahead of time, so that if in fact a threat comes along, you know what platform. We don't want to get into a situation where, you know, it takes 6 months to induce immunity, as with some of the older platforms that might be appropriate if you've got 5 years to get ready for something. And we don't want to be in a scenario where we only protect against one very narrow spectrum. And I think if you understand the vaccine well, this is not a trivial adjustment. We've been trying to make a universal flu vaccine, for example, for I don't know how long, and so these are complicated things, and that's why we need you to put your heads together and come up with the best ideas that you can to help us achieve those kinds of mission objectives. And I mentioned Raptor. There's the emerging threat piece again here, and platform technologies. Tracy was the lead in our initial foray into platform technologies back in 2014-15 when we brought forward the Adamant program, which was a development of monoclonal antibodies as a platform. Mr. Bryce was in charge then, and he recognized the value of platforms. The Adamant program really was a proof of principle to show that we could develop a product from discovery to phase 1 clinical trials in under 3 years, and they accomplished that. we need to go faster than that, and certainly those are the kinds of things that we're looking for now, is how do you go faster than 3 years? The therapeutics team, they are really a trigger-to-treat team that look for medical countermeasures that will ameliorate or restore homeostasis. And again, the same themes, broad spectrum, rapid development, they're all the same things here. I would add that domain fits into this, the discovery of medical countermeasures against new and emerging threats. Yes, I can't spell, and that's how it ended up like that. You know, the broadest concept of these things is that we're going to essentially rely a lot more on AI and our partners over in CBI to understand ahead of time what can work, where will it bind off target, what are all those functions, how do they come together in the toxidrome and so on to ensure safety and efficacy. Again, complicated things, but computers are smarter than us, so I'm hoping they can figure it out for us. All right, and then we come to the Medical Futures Division, which is the team I lead. So I've interacted with a lot of you, actually. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces out there. In the Medical Futures team, we I think, look at solutions that will come online around 2028. So sort of that 5 to 10 year period. So that gives you know, folks with the minds that generate new ideas where there's really no data to support the idea, but it's a good idea and I can do it. I can see Dr. Galloway here is one of our past directors with lots of ideas. You know, the domain structure has been subsequently broken into multiple parts. Its vision, though, and I think when you're, you know, if you've listened to the earlier talks from ASD Blumenthal and then, of course, DTRA Watson, Colonel Grice, we want to render biological weapons to be ineffective. So how do we do that? How do we let our adversary know that there's no point investing further into bioweapons? And so that is essentially the core question that domain wants to answer. How do you go from here's a new threat to here's the solution to that threat in days to weeks as opposed to months to years? So we'll be introducing some new concepts for you to think about. There was a concept we introduced about 7 years ago that we didn't get to, but I think we'll have to come back to it, called the limited use licensing capability. That was something that we tried to pursue before Public Law 115 was in place. Now, limited use licensing essentially is not a public health license. This is a license that says this drug will only be used in a very small encapsulated group of people. Why would I need to do a 30,000 person clinical trial when my target population is 100 or 1,000 or 50,000? It doesn't make sense. We've got to stop doing public health and really focus how we develop drugs in an appropriate manner for the warfighter. If we're successful, we won't have to treat the entire military, because we'll get ahead of the curve. We will stop that logarithmic growth of whatever's being thrown at us and eliminate it, or even prevent it from starting. And so why do you need so much? If you think you're going to be successful, you shouldn't think along the lines of public health. You should be thinking along the lines of, I'm going to stop it before it matters. The quantum biology world, those of you that are sort of in biophysics understand that there are a lot of biological processes that rely on quantum field effects. We're very interested in understanding whether there are quantum field effects that create a healthy state versus quantum states that are non-healthy, and can we make those two talk to each other to restore health. That's a 10-year out objective. So within, well, you all know a lot about this. Let's go to the next slide. So just to remind you all where we work in the spectrum of drug development, and this is a public health drug development plan. If this was a limited use, that would say phase 6, which would be a new phase of drug development, which essentially is a phase 1, 2, 3 combined into one trial with the appropriate number of people using the FDA's rule of 3. So if your target population is 300, you would essentially get your license based on safety and efficacy in 100 people. Whether they go with that or not is questionable. We've sat down with them a number of times, and it's hard for them to think about it, so I think we will have to use the leverage of Public Law 115 and maybe even statute changes to bring that about. I don't see us being successful without those kinds of capabilities. Spectrum, I think I've covered everything here, except that you matter, partnerships matter. We have been very successful within the vaccine therapeutics team. We've developed one vaccine that's now licensed. We developed 4 drugs that have also been licensed. We typically see hundreds of publications coming out of the research we support a year, and you know, dozens of patents. But we need to keep doing it, and we need to do it better. As Daz D. Watson says, we cannot, and as Colonel Grice said, we not just better, we need to do it with purpose. We need to understand what the vision is and address that with purpose, not just with rhetoric. Those are the sessions. And Dr. Norwood now, from the Advanced and Emerging Threats Division, will give you an overview of the work they're doing. Thank you.